Interior Secretary Ken Salazar says the BP oil spill shows America is too dependent on fossil fuels and needs a new energy policy. That may mean new and more restrictions on offshore drilling, restrictions Kevin Book says will make the country more dependent on foreign oil and result in higher prices. Kevin is a managing director at ClearView Energy Partners. He's in our Washington newsroom this morning. Ken, we might call this the politics of drilling. Kevin, excuse me. President Obama's reaction is getting the most attention here, but what about the rest of Congress? Does the future of offshore drilling get bleaker every day this spill isn't contained?
It certainly could if something bad happens above and beyond where we are. The spill not being contained is sort of the primary issue for the administration. The issue for Congress will be, how do they show responsiveness? We're about halfway up our continuum of outcomes right now. Already, the Senate Finance Committee's raised the oil spill liability trust fund contribution from 8 cents to 43 cents a barrel. Small. We think that number in a congressional stampede could go as high as $4, $5, or even $9 per barrel. Safe to say that changes the economics of producing offshore, even if you have access. It would move rigs elsewhere, and it absolutely would shift away from making this the next petroleum province for the Western Hemisphere.
Okay, those are the economics, but how about the access? At this point, can we look ahead past the BP spill, past the moratoria, and say that an expansion of offshore drilling is dead on arrival?
I don't think you can call it dead on arrival, at least in the Gulf of Mexico. Clearly, the other parts of the outer continental shelf that had been long sought after, really a 2-decade process, came to a screeching halt this year. The Alaska sale to Shell in 2008 for the Chukchi and Beaufort Seas, that was a big deal that those exploratory wells are paused. Virginia, gone. But the Gulf of Mexico, we're probably not looking at 6 months. It's probably more like 9, 12, or even 18 months, because there's new regulations to follow the moratorium. But I think we will be back, assuming there are rigs there to do the work.
Kevin, 4 drilling companies, Ensco, Rowan, Hercules, and Seahawk Drilling, have banded together, formed a coalition, and sued the federal government. Is this likely to have any impact at all?
I think that there's going to be a lot of time spent in court, probably far more than the hours logged on the open sea right now cleaning up oil. And part of the reason is that the Obama administration has statutory authority that it's never invoked before to stop this work. There were wells in process that the administration said, stop these wells as soon as you safely can. This sort of thing is without precedent on this scale, and I'm sure that you'll see legal challenges. Will it stop the administration now? Our answer is no. And the reason is that the administration is being driven by political containment. It's their goal to show the American people that they're responsive. They're not going to buckle until there's injunctions from court that make them stop.
Kevin, we're talking about stuff offshore. How about onshore? An incident last week at a gas well operated by EOG in Pennsylvania. The state called it a blowout and suspended all of EOG's operations. It's the 3rd accident in recent weeks at what they call the Marcellus Shale Formation. Is onshore gas drilling going to become subject to the same kind of regulatory backlash as offshore oil drilling?
The interesting part about that is that the onshore wells are mostly on private, not federal land, and so the federal government's reach isn't as far right now. To get there, Congress has to change the way the EPA regulates wells. And whereas that seems unlikely if you can get a climate bill, which is predicated on the idea that you will basically trade natural gas for coal and petroleum, and therefore you don't want to go after natural gas, if you don't get a climate bill, it's open season potentially on changing the rules on hydraulic fracturing. And really what's going on here is that a lot of sentiment shifted from the Gulf of Mexico to the onshore. And people said, Boone Pickens loves gas.
Kevin,
gas is our future. Yeah.
Kevin, we've run out of time. I'm sorry. Kevin Book of ClearView Energy